What is up guys, Wraec is here with a new video, and today we're going to talk about why Temesia is one of the best damage dealers for Necro Dragon, the Dream Realm boss, how many copies of her you ideally need, and how her skills work in detail. So let's go. So starting off, we have this Necro Dragon comp, mainly consisting of 3 light barrier heroes, Marilee, Corrin, and we have, of course, Temesia. Then we use Rainier and we use Kruger. And you see the main focus already, it is on moving heroes. And that is exactly what you will see with Temesia right now. Temesia, once we start the battle, will immediately charge forward, and she will do that basically for the entire fight, charging from the furthest away hero on the battlefield to the furthest away hero from that enemy on the battlefield. And in that path she deals damage to every single enemy she reaches. That is initially 125% and later on is increased even more. Every time she changes the direction, we can see that. Every time she does that, she regains 180 energy. You can see that every single time there she actually gains energy. This speed of her riding over the battlefield can't be increased by attack speed or haste, which is pretty sad because that would for sure be a fun build. But instead, if you give her attack speed or haste, you will instead get more charge damage from her, which is also okay, I guess. We kind of died there, which is unfortunate. And the real ultimate skill, though, the active part of it, that is her leaping forward and dealing 300% damage to adjacent enemies, knocking them down, and her charge speed is then increased by 10%, and you can have up to 2 stacks of that. So we can see she dealt a fair bit of damage. That is not bad. Corrin is a renowned damage dealer, very well known for dealing good damage, for being a good support, and still we have her here at 12 million, so not bad at all. Of course not comparable to Marilee, still kind of insane, because he's otherwise not really known as an insane damage dealer. So how does that work? Well, let's hop into her skills and find out. So we already talked about her ultimate skill, Knight's Heart. As I said, you can get up to 2 stacks of the charge speed, and that is also important later on for her Mythic Plus. And you can see the charge damage goes up to 160% in the end. She then has a pretty basic ability here, which is just her Mount Dawn. It is called Dawn, by the way. Kicking at an enemy, dealing 150% damage. Inflicting an interruption effect. If you watched my Smoky video, you might understand why that can actually be kind of good. Disrupting channeling skills can be pretty mean. And we have to reduce enemy damage dealt by 15%. Very valuable against Necro Dragon, because that guy is surely dealing a ton of damage. The HP restoration here is kind of beautiful as well. So very, very nice. And then some minor damage increases. It's okay. And then we have her skill Courage Sword. She wields a broadsword to attack adjacent enemies 4 times while charging. So on top of the damage that we already see here in her passive ultimate skill with the 125 damage, we now have this. Dealing damage that is equal to 40% of the target's attack. So of the enemy that she's actually attacking. And each damage doesn't exceed 70% of her attack. The thing is, it is on top, of course, of our other damage. It is not really a whole lot of damage, in my opinion. A bit weird, honestly, because it's 70% of her attack. Really, if we compare that to another hero, that is a bad example, I guess. We have Vala here with the similar skill. It's 230%, so like a ton more damage actually. But we have to understand, of course, that this comes on top of this, on the 125%, 25% that we initially already have. And it's certainly an interesting way to deal damage. 40% of the target's attack and 70% of hers. We probably will hit 70% of hers on most bosses. In most PvP fights probably as well. Hero Focus that we unlock on Legendary Plus increases her attack by 11% during battle, also gains an extra 2% the first time she casts Knight's Heart, which is her ultimate skill. So we definitely want to have that. It's a nice attack increase. And then we have the Mythic Plus, and here again we see the 2 stacks of Knight's Heart again. Temesia permanently becomes unaffected, immune to all control effects, after casting Knight's Heart 2 times. I mean, we really can cast it very swiftly. We saw that in the fight just now, that this works very, very swiftly, because we regain the energy all the time. We have the 180 energy regeneration, 5 times changing direction, and you easily have your skills back. So we can cast it kind of fast. Still, if you fight something like an iron comp, well, you're in a bit of a bad situation, because this guy will CC her, keep her from running away, and she will have a much tougher time than you might think to actually get to those 2 times of Knight's Heart. Also, the charge damage is turned into true damage, so pretty much very, very nice. Will actually ignore most defenses, which is very nice damage increase and pretty much worth it to make her Mythic Plus. I think it's also rather interesting that we have multiple heroes in the Lightbearer faction that unlock some way of converting the damage to true damage and Mythic Plus. So we have the same here. And once she is at that status with the 2 stacks of Knight's Heart, then when we upgrade her weapon, we also restore 1% of max HP per second on the status, which is a decent bit of health restoration. I think it's very much worth it to go for +5. For +10, you get to 1.2% and then to 1.4, which I don't think is that interesting. The cool thing about her weapon, though, if we look at Enhance, ton of stats that we're actually getting once again. So for these stats, if you really want to use her, +8 is very interesting. And I mean, if you really, really want to use her, then maybe +10. I think +10 is a stretch, I'll be honest with you. I think +10 is a stretch. If you really like her, go +8, that is still rather cheap. Get all those nice stats, and I mean, if you really fall in love with her, you can go more, but then, again, nothing I say here matters for you at that point. A reasonable approach would be +5 or +8, I think. And then we have the Supreme Plus, reduce the enemy's fist death by 1% when hit by Knight's Heart up to 6 stacks. And of course, if we look at the Dream Realm team again, we kind of also make use of it with Kruger. We have a lot of true damage on this team, but also still some hits, for example, the Act skill of Merrily, that deal fist damage and are therefore buffed by her Supreme Plus ability as well. So I would never call it a bad skill. It is, however, I think a bit limited in terms of the percentages. If we compare it to dedicated debuffer like Kruger, that is of course a difference. And one thing that we didn't really talk about, and it was kind of surprising to me, she is actually a tank. She is a tank, and when I started the game, I probably didn't really think so. I thought she was a warrior, but she is a tank, and it very much so shows in her stats. When we were talking about Thorin yesterday in my review, and we said, okay, the fist death and the magic death is kind of low. 64,007 for fist death and magic death. That is a ton. That really is a ton. Attack not that high, pretty decent, but it's not really that high. But fist death and magic death, oh my god, that is a lot. Crit resist, we have a bit of that. Well, we have 117% actually, that is quite a lot. It really is quite a lot. Bit of vitality, bit of range death. So we have a lot of stats actually on there. But that was a bit surprising. She is a tank. She is very tanky. And she moves a lot. So we kind of have to talk about her role a bit. But let's do that while watching a PvP fight. Okay, this is basically what I came up with. Maybe we go for... I think we can keep Awakening Spell. I think that is okay. So this is basically what I came up with. Mostly for Lightbearer setup. I thought Skalita in there would be kind of fancy. We have Temesia there as well. Corrin a bit tanky. And of course Vala to deal some massive damage. Could actually move her back just to not get teleported. Oh well, we don't really want that. Let's teleport her. It's okay if we take his Roan for that. So that is really what we want to do. Just watch Temesia go through those enemies. Interesting thing that I didn't note yet. If we were to see some walls or something on this map, well, Temesia wouldn't really care. Temesia isn't that interested in walls. She would just ride over them, and that would actually be of no concern to her. So we got absolutely murdered. We got absolutely destroyed. Yeah, that was not good. That enemy Vala, yeah, really did a number on us. It worked. That was quite faster than I expected, actually. I mean, we did a ton of damage. That really didn't work out as well as I thought it would. Let's try that again. Okay. Maybe we move her out. Let's move Rainier in there. Do we steal? Do we steal somebody? Kinda wanna do this. I think that would be good. Okay. And yeah, about the role of her as a tank, that was really what I wanted to talk about. It is a bit difficult in that regard. Because, well, she's riding all over the battlefield. And of course, if the enemies focus on her, that's great. But look at that. She's over there. My Corrin is getting attacked here. While she's just on a holiday trip. And that is something you see quite often with her. And that is also something I don't really like. I like to position my tank between my heroes that I want to protect and the enemy. In the best case, that keeps them away from harm. That keeps them away from heroes like Lucius, like Thorin. All of those heroes will attack my tank first. But with my Temesia, that switches around a little bit. She will ride past the enemy and then we won't see anything of her anymore. So like in the first situation we already see she's CC'd. That was something that is like in the situation of unaffected where we were worried about with the King's Heart. She doesn't even get to change direction a single time up until now, which is like pretty late into the battle already. Then CC'd again, and before she can even change direction a second time, the fight is over. And that is like PvP for you at the moment. So I don't really see her in PvP. I don't really do it. I don't really see it at all. For a tank, I rather use a Thorin. I saw some teams using her. And sometimes, I mean, she can be a bit annoying, but it often ends just like that. And that's since destroyed by Tsia this time, because she was CC'd by her actually 2 times. So yeah, I don't really think she's that great in PvP. It is okay. She has some potential, but doesn't really utilize it. She is great for Necrodrakon, she is great for battle drills as well, because there we see a similar boss that punishes you a little bit for standing at one spot. But other than that, I think she is decent. If you get a lot of copies of her in the story, she will perform very well in a lot of game modes, will be quite decent, is a very nice pick. Is she the hero you really want to go for? Probably not. Probably not. Unless you really want to optimize your damage against Necrodrakon, then I wholeheartedly recommend that. Let's show my team for it at the moment, because I'm doing reasonably well. Place 4 at the moment. That is pretty nice. And that is the team that I use. Maybe you want to use it too. Maybe I will make a tutorial on Necrodrakon, but for now, that is Temesia for you guys. Tell me if you used her already. Do you like her? For me, I think she's one of the more interesting heroes just because of her moving patterns. I like that very much. I also like that initially when I played the game for the first time. Just saw this and thought, well, that is great. That is just a very, very interesting hero. Sadly, it is a bit mediocre. So with that, I wish you guys a great day. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and we'll see us in the next one.